When war becomes a business, peace stops paying dividends. For half a century, Dick Cheney moved through America's corridors of power, from the Pentagon to a boardroom in Houston and back to the White House. Each door he passed through opened to another fortune. They called it public service. History may remember it as one of the most profitable transitions in modern politics, a $40 million passage between war and wealth. Halliburton, a name once known only to engineers and oilmen, until it became a silent shareholder of the Iraq War. This is the story of how a statesman turned contractor, a vice president turned investor, and a nation's foreign policy became a profit model. In 1989, the Cold War was ending, but a new kind of empire was already forming, one built not on territory but on contracts. Dick Cheney, once a quiet congressman from Wyoming, became Secretary of Defense under George H.W. Bush. He oversaw the First Gulf War, a 43-day campaign that cost America over $60 billion and rewarded defense contractors with unprecedented government spending. When the guns fell silent, Cheney made a decision few expected. He left Washington and joined Halliburton, one of the world's largest oil field service corporations. Under his leadership, Halliburton's profits multiplied. Its government contracts soared from $100 million to over $1 billion. Cheney himself earned an estimated $40 million, a compensation package that tied his fortune directly to the company's future. He called it good business, but historians would call it something else, the beginning of the revolving door. In the 1990s, Halliburton acquired Brown & Root Services, the same contractor that once built bases for U.S. forces in Vietnam. Through a new Pentagon initiative known as LOGCAP, private companies could now perform logistics once handled by the military itself. Cooking, fuel, transport, maintenance, war, outsourced. The idea was simple: efficiency through privatization. But in practice, it turned combat zones into marketplaces, and Halliburton became the market's undisputed king. By 2001, the world had changed, and so had Dick Cheney. He left Houston's boardroom for Washington's West Wing, this time not as a contractor, but as the Vice President of the United States. Public duty called again, but so did the echo of unfinished business. He was still owed deferred payments from Halliburton and still held stock options worth millions, technically legal, politically explosive. Then came September 11th. The nation reeled and power concentrated overnight. The war on terror opened floodgates of defense spending, and with it a new age of privatized warfare. Inside the White House, Cheney chaired the Energy Task Force, a group so secret its members were never officially named. Maps of Iraqi oil fields and pipeline routes appeared in briefings months before the 2003 invasion. The lines between policy and profit grew blurred, and perhaps by design. When the war began, Halliburton and its subsidiary KBR were ready. Through no-bid contracts and emergency authorizations, they secured billions in reconstruction and logistics deals, fuel deliveries, military bases, power grids, entire cities rebuilt under corporate supervision. By 2004, Halliburton's Iraq-related revenues surpassed $10 billion. Investigators later found overcharging, missing funds, and double-billed projects. Yet no one was held accountable. In press conferences, Cheney dismissed the accusations as politics as usual, but to critics, it was proof that the revolving door had become a machine, one that turned war into dividends. The pattern was clear. A man moves through government, then industry, then government again, and each passage writes a new check. War has always been expensive, but in the 21st century, it became profitable. When American troops crossed into Iraq in 2003, Halliburton's subsidiary, Kellogg Brown & Root, was already there. They didn't just follow the army. They fed it, fueled it, housed it. Every bullet, every meal, every mile was billable. Under a Pentagon initiative called LOGCAP 3, the Logistics Civil Augmentation Program, KBR was granted a 10-year contract worth up to $7 billion. It was open-ended, spend first, bill later, no competitive bidding required. In bureaucratic language, it was a cost-plus arrangement. In plain English, the more they spent, the more they earned. Within months, fuel scandals surfaced. Auditors discovered KBR had overcharged the U.S. military by more than $61 million for imported gasoline. At one point, a gallon of fuel shipped to Iraq cost more than a bottle of champagne at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Inside KBR's camps, whistleblowers described rows of trucks left idling 24 hours a day because turning them off would stop the clock on billable hours. In one hearing, a senator called it the most blatant conflict of interest since the Gilded Age. By 2004, Halliburton's Iraq-related revenues had surpassed $10 billion. Its stock price tripled, and its former chief executive now occupied the second highest office in the United States. When reporters asked about conflicts of interest, Vice President Cheney insisted he had severed all ties with Halliburton. But ethics filings showed otherwise. Deferred payments of more than $150,000 a year continued through his first term. Technically legal, politically radioactive. Baghdad's reconstruction became a maze of contracts within contracts, American funds flowing through Kuwaiti brokers, then to offshore subsidiaries in the Caymans. For every dollar that left Washington, only cents reached the streets of Iraq. The total bill of the Iraq War would exceed $2 trillion, money borrowed from future taxpayers to finance present wars. Economists estimate the interest alone will outlive an entire generation. But this was not a new story. 2,000 years ago, Rome employed private contractors, publicani, to supply its legions and collect its taxes. In the 18th century, the East India Company conquered territories for profit, not policy. Cheney's America had simply modernized the template, turning empire into enterprise. For soldiers on the ground, it meant their rations came from a corporation whose stock was traded on Wall Street. For citizens back home, it meant a national debt that would outlast the war itself. The revolving door had become a permanent engine, spinning between policy and profit, between the flag and the balance sheet, and like all machines built for gain, it required fuel. Oil supplied some of it, belief supplied the rest. They called it Reconstruction, but in truth, it was a new economy, one where war was no longer the failure of politics, but its most lucrative branch. The wars changed, the faces changed, but the machinery stayed. By the time the last American convoy left Iraq, the revolving door had grown into an entire industry. Consultants who once managed Halliburton contracts founded new firms specializing in post-conflict operations. Private equity bought into defense logistics. Wall Street discovered that war was an asset class, predictable, renewable, profitable. 2 decades after Iraq, the contracts didn't end. They evolved. The same companies that built bases now build clouds. Raytheon designs missiles and AI. Lockheed Martin models space warfare and satellite surveillance. Palantir feeds the algorithms that decide who appears on a drone screen. The battlefield has moved from sand to silicon. In 2024, the United States spent over $900 billion on defense, more than the next 10 countries combined. 60% of that money went to private contractors. For every soldier in uniform, 3 civilian contractors stood beside them, feeding, guarding, coding, counting. The logo on the paycheck changed, but the employer was the same: the public purse. Lobbying became its own front line. In Washington, there are more defense lobbyists than members of Congress. Every budget cycle is a campaign, every appropriation a victory. In 2023 alone, the industry spent over $120 million to shape legislation, a return that makes the old oil barons look like amateurs. The model didn't stop at America's shores. In Europe, defense consortia mirror the same pattern: state contracts, private profits, public debt. In the Middle East, sovereign funds own shares in the companies that arm their neighbors. And in Asia, new superpowers adopt the same language of dual-use technologies, the polite term for tools of war that double as investments. The Halliburton template has become global: privatize risk, socialize cost, monetize reconstruction. From Kabul to Kyiv, from Mosul to Mariupol, the cycle repeats. destruction followed by development, each financed by the same banks, the same insurers, the same consultants who once studied Cheney's playbook. And while wars are fought with drones, they are justified with spreadsheets. Every strike produces a line item, every reconstruction a bond issuance. Conflict has become a form of liquidity, a stimulus for nations that no longer manufacture goods, but manufacture fear. This is the modern echo of Cheney's door, a hallway stretching from Wall Street to Silicon Valley, from defense labs to lobby rooms. A global apparatus where policy is investment and investment is policy. And beneath it all runs the same belief that once fueled every empire, the belief that the system is too big to question, too intertwined to change, too profitable to end. But history has never honored machines for their efficiency. It remembers them for their collapse. Every empire keeps a balance sheet. Victories on one side, debts on the other, and history is the auditor that never forgets. 2 decades after Dick Cheney left office, the machine he built still runs. Halliburton moved its headquarters to Dubai, away from oversight, closer to opportunity. Its contracts continued under new names, new subsidiaries, new wars. The geography changed, the business model did not. Generals became consultants. Officials who once wrote policy now advise corporations on how to navigate it. The revolving door, once a symbol of conflict of interest, has become an accepted career path, a reward system disguised as public service. In every generation, empire finds a new justification. For Rome, it was civilization. For Britain, commerce. For America, security. But beneath each slogan lies the same calculation. Power must pay for itself. The war on terror turned 20 and showed no profit except to those who invoiced it. Trillions spent. Nations reshaped, faith eroded, and yet the markets rose, dividends paid, contracts renewed, the invisible hand of history signing receipts in blood and ink. Cheney's blueprint became a map for modern governance, pandemics, cyber attacks, climate crises, each now managed like military campaigns, complete with contractors, consultants, and cost-plus clauses. When fear becomes a market, leadership becomes logistics. But history whispers warnings in familiar tongues. Rome taxed itself to death. The East India Company was dissolved when its greed outweighed its utility. The Soviet Union collapsed not from invasion but from disbelief. And disbelief is spreading again, quiet, invisible, corrosive, because belief is the true currency of nations. Once citizens stop believing in the purpose of their sacrifices, no amount of spending can hold the structure together. You can buy weapons but not faith. You can print money but not meaning. Perhaps the reckoning will not come with collapse but with awakening, when people finally realize that empire is not a place, but a pattern. And patterns, once seen, cannot be unseen. The question is no longer what Dick Cheney built, but what we continue to build in his image. A world where crisis is profitable, where truth is negotiable, and where accountability is deferred like an unpaid invoice. When the ledgers of this century finally close, they will not measure victory in territory or stock price, but in the quiet arithmetic of conscience. And that balance, sooner or later, always settles to zero. Because in the end, history doesn't repeat, it settles its debts.